Thank you everyone for being over here. I know it's like a cold Saturday. For me, it's like unusual for like Berlin to have been this cold on a Saturday, but I'm glad you all made it to the talk. And I am really excited to give this talk for two reasons. One, my girlfriend is sitting in the audience, listening over here, listening to the talk. And the second, this is something that I have been playing around with a lot, and I am passionate about what I'm going to talk and show you all over here today. Now, before we do that, I know there are a few volunteers from GDG or the DevFest. So can we have like a round of applause for them, because organizing a conference and like helping out at an event is not a small thing. So can we have please a round of applause for them? Awesome. Let's move forward. Everything that I am going to cover today is on this QR code. I highly encourage you all to just scan it, because there is a fun little interactive element to the slides. I know some of you know the interactive element in the slides, but for some it might be something new. So I see people have already figured that out. That's wonderful. So let's test it in practice. And I also want to know a bit about the audience that I have over here. So I'm curious, like, how many of you have been using, some kind of an AI tool to write code? This can be, all right, okay, there's a lot of people, that's fantastic. And I'm gonna ask a more controversial question. I don't know if it's controversial, but for some it is. And that is, have you tried vibe coding an app? All right, okay, a few of you have tried that. That's fantastic. All right, that's amazing, because that is what we are gonna talk or focus on this in this particular session. But before I do that, let me do a quick introduction. My name is Harshil. You can find me on the internet at harshil.dev. I also use AI coding tools a lot, and I tried vibe coding. I'm not the best at it, but I have learned a lot of things. And this helped me also kind of build a couple of things on my own. So I have 3 products. I would say 2 products, and one is still under development. I have a POC ready. So if you want, you can always check them out. And for my day job, this is something I do in my free time. But in my day job, I work as a developer educator at Cloudflare. How many of you have heard about Cloudflare? This might be a timing question, but okay, a lot of you, that's good. One more thing, I also co-authored a book on how you can build your own virtual assistants on Raspberry Pi, which can be run fully locally on a Raspberry Pi, so does not need to have internet connection. And I am giving away a copy of this. So if you want, just come chat to me after this talk. I'll be happy to give it away for free. Now, a couple of you already raised your hands and kind of hinted me that you have done vibe coding. But for the folks who are learning about vibe coding for the first time, or if you have like heard about it but never tried it, I'm going to show you a quick demo. So in here, I am going to go to build.cloudflare.dev. This is the vibe coding platform that we at Cloudflare have created. It is open source, so you can just go and fork it and build your own vibe coding platform. What I am going to do is ask it to build a simple portfolio website. I'm always skeptical when AI writes code, and I don't know if it is gonna work on the first go. Let's see. But the way this works behind the scenes is that the AI gets the message from the user, like what it needs to build. It then starts trying to figure out what are all the requirements it needs. It needs to bootstrap a project like we do as developers. So it is going to do that. It is also going to generate a blueprint, which is going to be like, what kind of color schemes the project should have, what should be the user flow for this project, and stuff like that. And as we can see, it has already started giving us the blueprint. It is giving us the color palette, the user flow, the data flow, and also talking about the pitfalls in here. Once the blueprint is ready, the AI is going to try and follow this blueprint that it generated by itself. And it is going to write the code for us, which is going to take a couple of minutes over here. So I am going to let it do its stuff while I move back to my slides. Where did I put my pointer? All right. So vibe coding for me is really, really cool, because it actually shows one of the applications of AI not just like it's not like just another technology where there is a hype, but there is no application. Vibe coding makes a lot of people very productive. So if you are not a developer, but you have like a hint of an idea what you want to build, you can vibe code it and like bring it into the world, bring it into a reality. I am not saying you should ship those vibe coded apps, and I'm gonna share why. But that is one thing you can try. If you have an idea, just play around with it, see how how you can build it for production. The other thing vibe coding allows you to do is help you ship faster. Because now you have like a POC ready that AI writes it for you. You can ship things faster. You have the code. Again, you need to make things, you need to make it production ready, but you can, with that AI generated code, update the code and like ship your features faster. And if you don't trust me, there are actually a lot of applications out there now which are vibe coded and they make like tons and tons of money. This is like crazy for me. Like you make 100K a month, which was just like a vibe coded application. So this is kind of my aim to be someday, not vibe coded, but like you do 100K a month with an app. While you can make a lot of money with vibe coded apps, there is one thing that people don't really understand, and that is security. As a vibe coder, people think that AI has written the code, it is going to be secure, but in reality, it's like just a small little cat who does not know if it's secure or not. It is going to allow any kind of threats that are in your application code. And to give you an example, there is this application called the T. This application was available only in the USA. It got really popular. The founder or the creator of the application was really proud that he kind of vibe coded the application. But recently, the T got spilled. There was a data breach happening with the app, which kind of leaked the data, the sensitive information of this app. For anyone who does not know what this T app is, it basically allowed like women to log in or sign up for the application, and then the women could talk with each other and kind of like talk about the guys they were about to go on a date. Kind of think of it like an evaluation or evaluating if they should be going on a date with this particular person or not. Controversial take. I don't want to comment on it, but think of the sensitivity of the data that this application holds, right? It has the information of the person who signed up. It has the ID or the government ID as well in there. And also, one interesting thing was because people were just uploading the images of their ID, it had the metadata. And if you have a metadata of an image, you can find a lot of information of where that person was or where the person lives and stuff like that. So in a nutshell, just deploying a vibe coded app is scary. And there are a lot of security issues with that. We looked at the data breach. The other one is giving access to the secrets or the tokens or the API keys. If you just let AI run on your bare metal, it can get access to the secrets and the API keys. Now, there is a probability where it can either leak those API keys, or there is a probability that it is going to use that without your knowledge and make calls to that particular API and may be able to do malicious stuff. The other thing I have seen a lot of people not really understand is securing their secrets or securing their tokens or API keys. AI does not really know how to do it. It would put the API keys into the front end or into the client side, which anyone can easily get a hold of and then use it in their own application. So that is another thing that people don't really understand. The other thing is giving AI access to the file system. Again, if you are letting AI run on the same bare metal where you have your actual application, now because the AI has access to the file system, it can read the files, but not just that, it can write the files and it can delete the files as well, which can be harmful. And the other one is really interesting, that is remote code execution. So to give you an idea, Databricks, the company, they did a research where they let, I don't remember the exact model, but they let one of the AI models generate the code for a Python application. The application was working really good. They were able to get the results that they expected. However, there was one major vulnerability in that application, and that was anyone can enter any kind of code into the input, and that code would get executed on the end server. So this was basically remote code execution. As a user, I can put any malicious code, and that code was gonna get executed on the server. So another major threat with AI generated code. So now this brings me to how can we actually secure AI generated code. Now, the things that I am gonna share in this particular slide is kind of more general topics, or just more general things that we need to be really aware of, but we oftentimes forget that we should be doing this. So the first one is, don't give AI the access to your production database. Never ever do that. Either give it only like the read access if that is necessary, or if you really want AI to do write or delete operations on your DB, give it a copy of that production database. Never give it direct access to your production database. Next is to restrict the tools. I have been using Cloud Code a lot, but I'd never use the YOLO mode in Cloud Code. I'm like, hey, I want to see what tools you are using, and I also want to understand why you are using this particular tool. Even though it is running on my machine, I have control of it. I am very skeptical of AI just taking over and being in the driver's seat. The other thing that internally we at Cloudflare also talk a lot about is, hey, use AI, that's completely fine, but review each and every single line of code that the AI is writing. Don't simply just let AI write the code and ship it. We don't want that, so make sure you are understanding the code that the AI generated, fix the code if it's needed, and then ship it. And if you are not like a seasonal developer who does not really understand what the AI did, ask AI. It generated the code for you. Ask it, hey, what you generated, is it safe enough? Does it have any vulnerability? Is this the best approach to do this thing? I personally do it myself, even though I am a developer, because I like to see what are the other options that the AI is thinking about. Eventually, it would come up with the same solution that it proposed on the first trial, but it lets AI take a different approach, think and explore a different side that it would not otherwise do that. So always make sure to do that. And lastly, if you can, make sure you run the AI generated code in an isolated environment. Don't just let it run on your application itself. Have an isolated environment where it can run the code. Now I'm gonna go back to our demo in here, and this is what we did. So we asked AI to build a portfolio website for us. And for me, I think this is much better than what I would have designed myself. I'm terrible at designs. You can see it from the slides as well. And I like that it was able to do this, right? So what is happening over here again is this is running in an isolated environment. It is not running on Cloudflare's own server. We have like a container where this is getting executed. And I'm going to show you how you can build it yourself. All right, so let's get on to the live demo. Again, the code that I am going to show for this live demo is already on GitHub, so you can go and check that out. One thing I am going to use in this live demo is called the Cloudflare Sandbox SDK, which is built on top of containers. So yes, Cloudflare has containers, which you can use to run any kind of applications you want. The Sandbox SDK, the way I like to think about Sandbox SDK is that it brings or provides a lot of utilities out of the box that are needed to bring such vibe coding applications. So let's go ahead and try something. So over here, I have a simple Hono application. Hono is a web framework similar to, think of it like Express.js. It is one of my favorite applications that I have been, or the framework I have been using to build apps. Because this is going to be deployed on Cloudflare, I have a configuration file, which is called the Wrangler file. In here, I basically configure what are the things I need for this particular project. And this is where I am defining my containers. So I'm giving the container a class name. I'm telling it which image it should be using. So I have a Docker file, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And then the instance type. So there are multiple instance types. For this demo, I'm just going to use the light one, and you can also specify the maximum number of instances this application can use. And these are, another primitive for from Cloudflare, which are needed to build and deploy this application. So I've already configured that in here. And I'm also setting the log level to 1 because the default is like the info log level, which would give you everything in here and also leak my Gemini API key, which I don't want to do over here. All right. One other thing I did before this talk was install the Sandbox SDK package. And lastly, this is my Docker file. Over here, I am using the Sandbox image, and I am exposing a port 8080. And I am going to come to that why I did that. Okay, so the first thing first, let us go ahead and try to run this application. But if I do, it is going to run into an error because I need to import a few things. So let me go and try that. So over here, I am simply importing a couple of methods, helper functions from the SDK, and then exporting the sandbox. Next, I am going to run the development server. All right, hope this starts. This is not starting, which is fantastic. What I expected because I forgot to save the file. All right, now it should be up and running, and I should see a port starting up on 8787. Yeah, let's just go and give it the permission. All right, so I have the app up and running on 8787. It says 404 not found because I have nothing configured in there. But if I go to the message route, I see hello Hono. I can come in here, change it to hello devfest, save this, refresh it, and I see the changes over here, right? So far, so good. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to let Gemini run the code in this sandbox and help me, like answer a few things. So for that, what I am going to do is I am going to first create a Gemini endpoint. In that, I am going to get a message from the user. So I'm basically extracting the user's message from the payload. Then I am going to configure, I'm going to basically create an instance of a sandbox. I am giving it a name of a demo. In like production environment, you don't want all the code running in like the same demo sandbox. For each user, for each application, you want to have a different name for that sandbox so that it executes in a different environment. The next thing I am doing is setting up the API key for Gemini in here, which I have already configured in my .env file. Now, because I am going to use the Gemini CLI, I need to install it. So I am running the npm install command to install Gemini CLI. Out of curiosity, how many of you have tried out Gemini CLI before? All right, quite a few folks. That's interesting. All right, I would say I did try it out when it came out early on. I wasn't really happy with the output. I did a video on the Cloudflare's YouTube channel, but I have been like trying it out again and again, like with and even with like the 3.0. I feel like it is like it has got really, really good. So highly recommend you all to check it out. All right, so once we install the Gemini CLI in our sandbox, I am gonna basically run it in the YOLO mode. Now, I earlier mentioned don't do that, but hey, this is a sandbox environment. Even if it does anything crazy, I can shut down the sandbox and it's not gonna harm my application. So in this YOLO environment, I am gonna pass in the text that is coming in from the user, and then lastly, simply return that to the user. Let's try this again. Yeah, so I'm getting this response from the model and I'm gonna send it out to my end user. So I'm gonna save this. The server is up and running, which is fantastic. And I have Postman in here. And I am gonna ask it to just do like a simple calculation. What is 2 plus 2? And we see the logs. It is installing Gemini CLI. So once it does that, it is going to take the next step, which is to ask Gemini for the answer for this particular question. Now the installation takes sometimes a bit of time. So let's see how much time it takes. Hopefully it should not take this much time. Fantastic. It asks Gemini to generate the code. And now it should give us some output as well. All right, So we should have an output. So if I pull it up, it says 2 plus 2 is 4, which is good. Now, this is a very simple way of how you can, like basically run AI in a sandbox environment. But what if you want to build something like the vibe coding platform that I showed you earlier, right? For that, you can still take the same approach, but add more functionalities to it. So I'm first going to add a new method or a new endpoint, which is going to be vibe server, and it has to have a callback. So let's do async. Right. Once I have that, what I want right now is to get the host name, and you will see why I need that. So I'm basically getting the URL information, and from that URL, get the name of the host and creating a new sandbox environment. The next step I want to do is have or provide Gemini with an already bootstrap project, because I don't want to waste my tokens, for Gemini to just bootstrap the project. A, it is going to waste tokens. B, it is going to take some time. And third, in my experience, AI still has like a legacy information, so it would not use the latest packages, the latest ways of how you can or how you would basically bootstrap application. So I am going to ask it to clone an application. So I already have that in here. So I'm going to check if in my sandbox there is the Vite React application already available or not. If not, I am going to clone a simple Vite React app in the sandbox. And if it is available, I'm going to just say the user, hey, this is already available. We can move on to the next step. Now, as a developer ourselves, after cloning the repository, what would be the next step? To move into that repository and install the packages. Right, so that is what we are going to do. We're gonna, where is it? Yeah, so we're gonna now move into that particular repository and install the packages. The next thing I am doing is I'm asking Gemini to do some stuff for me. Over here, to keep it simple, I asked Gemini to change the background color and make it give it like a Berlin vibe. I want to see what Gemini thinks Berlin vibe is. And I am also asking to, show a message in German, because right now it's like a simple hello world with a white background, not so fancy. Let's see what Gemini would come up with. Now that I have this, one thing I also need to do is get the API key, because again, this is a different sandbox environment that is going to get created for me. So I need to set up the API key for Gemini. So I'm going to just do it over here. Let's see. So we have this. We are asking Gemini to write the code for us. And after we make the changes to the code, what is the next step? It's basically to start the development server. Right. So let's go ahead and try to do that. I am going to try this. But before I do that, I just have like a small code utility over here, which is simply going to stream out the response that Gemini generates. So it can be like a textual response or the code that Gemini is going to give us. And at the end, I'm going to ask it to, hey, all right, let's kill all the processes that are running. So if there is already a Vite server running, I just want to kill it, because otherwise it's going to give me an error. So I'm going to kill that Vite server that is running and start a new server with npm run dev. Now over here, there is a bit of a difference on the methods that I have used. So if I go on the top, let me see. So over here, I am using a method called execute. So basically, if you want to, just like run the method once, you can just use the execute method and it is going to do that. But if you want to run a method and also stream the logs of, what is being written by that particular method, you can use execute stream. And then there is a start process method, which is basically allowing you to run a long running process. So execute would execute that process and stop it. But the start process method would basically help you run a long running process. So now that I have this over here, it is going to start the server on port 8080. And that is why I am already exposing that port over here. One more thing I am going to do is, instead of like installing Gemini on every request, I'm going to simply add it to my Docker image so that it does not get installed on every request. It's already available in that instance now. All right, so we have the app. Assuming Gemini made the code changes, it is gonna run the server. But again, this server is gonna be in the context of that sandbox. As a user, I cannot directly go in the sandbox and view that application. So for that, what I need to do is I need to expose this particular port. But before that, I am very skeptical of live demos, so I created a bunch of logs just for myself. So if things go wrong, I can understand what happened. So if things go all well, I'm going to see that the server is ready. But if not, I'm going to see that it is an error. And now what I want to do is export the port. So I'm checking first of all if the port is already exposed in the sandbox or not. If it is, I'm just going to unexpose the port and then expose this port again. And this is where I am passing the host name that we got early on at the top. All right, so far we have the app up and running. We have everything going well. We just need to send out a response back to our user. So let's do that. So over here, I am sending the preview URL to the user and also like if the server is ready or not, that particular flag. Now, there is one utility function that I also need to do or add over here is basically to check if the request is being made to my sandbox or not. Because if I'm just trying to access it right now, it will just show me the actual application and it's not going to work. What I really want to do is, hey, if this URL belongs to the sandbox, get me into the sandbox and help me do that, right? So over here, we are checking if it belongs to the sandbox. Let's go and run that or let the user view the sandbox or the application running in the sandbox. If not, let's just return the original application that we have over here. So things look good to me. I'm gonna save this and I am gonna say no because there is an error that I am not sure why there is. Okay, just gonna close the server and start it again and hopefully there is no error anymore. It is gonna build the image again because now I am installing Gemini in the image itself. It says there's no error for now. So it looks good to me. So let's go ahead and check out our message endpoints. If I refresh this, this is still working. We see hello div fetched over here, which is good. Now what I want to do is make a call to my server endpoint, send a message, and we can take a look at the logs. All right, so the port is 3000 is ready. That's fine. That is for the sandbox. It is now cloning the repository. So this is also takes a couple of minutes, but it is going to clone the repository. It is going to move into that repository, install the dependencies in that repository, and now it is asking Gemini to generate the server code for us. And I am curious what Gemini does over here. In my practice of this talk, it once gave like a dark blue background, which I don't really know why, and it said like hello Berlin. In the other test, it was like Guten Tag. I don't know how it figured out it was morning, which was really fun for me. All right, anyways, we see that there is Gemini is now giving us some response. We are seeing that it's trying to understand what is like Berlin wipe means over here, and it has decided to go with a dark gray background, and it's like aber sexy. It is. I don't know what that means in German. All right, okay. No, this is what I didn't want it to do. All right, so it is now trying to confirm, do something in Tailwind CSS. I've updated the color and the text, which is good. Vulnerabilities are out of scope. Okay, that's interesting. This is the first time I'm seeing it. And it's trying to build the app now, which is not what I asked it to do. So if I show you the prompt, I'm specifically telling it that, hey, we are using Tailwind CSS4, because if you try to do it with an LLM model, it always assumes that you're using Tailwind CSS3, and Tailwind CSS3 and 4 have different setups, and then it gets confused where there is no post config.js file, that these packages are not available, and it tries to add packages which are not really required. And I'm also asking it to, hey, don't start the dev server. I am going to do it myself. but I should have also added that, hey, don't also build the project. But it did that. I think it was successful. So if I come in over here, I see a URL, and I'm just gonna copy this, open it in here, and see. And we got a message that says, I'm Aber Sexy. I don't really know what this means. I'm gonna ask my friends. But yeah, so again, we asked AI to do this for us, but this was all again in an isolated environment. Nothing was running on my local machine. There was a Docker instance that got created, and everything was running in that Docker instance, right? So let's go back to our slides. I'm gonna do a quick refresh over here so that things are in sync. All right, so let's do a quick recap. So AI over here is to boost your productivity. For me personally, I don't believe that AI is anywhere going to take our jobs. But you need to be, AI aware. You need to be using AI every day and add it as a skill to your resume. If you are not using AI now, you're going to be kind of be like unemployable in the next couple of years. And that's the truth. That's the truth. A lot of people, if you are into like giving interviews, or if you're like also on the other side of taking interviews, you would know this. But then just don't trust AI blindly. Don't let AI take the driver's seat and do everything for you. Use it as your assistant, as someone who is your partner, who can help you be more productive, who can help you get stuff done. But don't let it be in the driver's seat. And if you are want to use AI to let your users run some kind of AI generated code, or even just run AI inferences on your application, I would say have like an isolated environment where the AI can execute whatever it wants to execute. Now, before I end this, I have a couple of resources that I believe would be useful for you all. So what I showed over here is the Cloudflare Vibe SDK. There are a couple of other alternatives out in the market. You can go ahead and check it out. For me, it's not just because I work at Cloudflare, but I love the whole interface of Vibe SDK, and I am actually also building something. Yeah, so this Vibe SDK is, you can deploy it, you can have your own Vibe coding platform, you can fork it, it's open source. So if let's just say you want to build the next Lovable, you have the source code, just make changes to it, deploy it, and you can make millions. The other thing is the Cloudflare Sandbox SDK, which is what we used. Your TV will turn off, it should not turn off. What can we do? Thank you. All right, so the Cloudflare Sandbox SDK is what I have used in here. And I have used Gemini CLI. I would say give it a try. It has gotten really, really better. You can also give it custom tools that you have developed. I think there is also a concept of extensions. So you can also build your own extensions and give Gemini that as well. And there is another open source project called VibeKit. It is like a SDK that allows you to build such applications. It abstracts away a lot of things. So it is also a cool project that you can check out. And before I end this, there is one other cool project that I am trying to build with this, is called AI Slides. So here's like a quick thing. You can basically enter what kind of slides you want the AI to build. I am gonna say, hey, build me like a TypeScript presentation. So it's gonna do that. It sends a message to Gemini. Gemini is gonna figure things out. And I was actually playing with Gemini 3.0 when it came out. And at the end of the day, this is what it generated for me. It's like a full-fledged slides for TypeScript generated by Gemini. Would I use it to give a talk? Maybe someday. It's still not there yet. A POC and something fun that I've been playing around with. With this, thank you so much. Again, you can scan the QR code for getting all the resources here.
We have time for just one question. Anybody have a question? Nobody? Okay. Thank you very much for the talk. Very interesting, the sandboxing.